Why is work engagement the most effective measure? Work engagement is one of the most effective measures of looking at employee productivity, but also of measuring engagement specifically. And the reason this is important is because if we want to get specific outcomes, we have to make sure we're measuring, assessing, testing the right things. And sometimes engagement is done in a bit of a fuzzy way. Sometimes organizations use measures that aren't actually testing work engagement. Whereas we know what we should be testing because there's decades and decades of research into this area. There's really good academic, scientific, peer-reviewed research that shows really clearly what engagement is and how to measure it. Interestingly, some of the early research on work engagement came out of the burnout research. So it was initially looking at how you prevent burnout, how you prevent negative things from happening at work, how you prevent people from getting exhausted or overworking people. In the last 10 or 20 years, there's been really significant advances in looking at the more positive end of it. And the reason that that's useful is we're not just trying to solve problems when it's too late to deal with them. We're trying to maximize the positive effects. We're trying to maximize the benefits because now we know how to do it. So instead of trying to prevent the worst scenarios, we're trying to improve people's baseline engagement and performance using really clear and specific measures that we know are related to productivity and profitability. So there's been some really good research by Schaufeli and colleagues out of the University of Utrecht over the last few decades, and they've built a really clear model on how to measure work engagement. And one of the things that they've done really well is tested it internationally. So they've tested tens and hundreds of thousands of people around the world in different organizations, different sectors, private sector, public sector, charitable sector, and we know that this is a really clear, consistent model of engagement that is universally true. It doesn't matter if we're testing it in the UK or Singapore or South Africa or Canada, we know it consistently predicts success and performance in the workplace. So what we wanted to do is take the best of the academic and the scientific research and take those theoretical models and turn them into something that was even more useful and even more practical in the workplace. So we tested all of the US questions, that's the Utrecht Work Engagement Scale. We came up with a whole bunch of our own and we tested dozens and dozens of questions with hundreds of people to see what the absolute best questions were to measure work engagement in a workplace environment. So what we wanted to do is improve the scale even more to make sure it was even more predictive, even more related to performance, and we had absolutely the best questions to ask within a performance management environment and in the most efficient way that we could do regularly. Because if we can ask these 3 questions really regularly and benchmark progress, look at improvements, look at changes in performance, we can make sure we're asking absolutely the right questions in the right way at the right time to maximize performance.